Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Coaching Call podcast. On this podcast, we'll cover various types of coaching by trainers in sports, martial arts, fitness, and business. We'll discuss each coach's methods to getting the most out of their respective athletes or clients and how they attempt to change the platform in which they coach. Join us on a fun adventure as we discuss unique coaching styles. Coaching is a universal part of how we get others to get something done. Join your host, Rafael, and his guests on this unique journey in coaching.
Hi, I'm Sifu Rafael, and this is the Coaching Call podcast. If you enjoy this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. This episode was made possible by listeners like you. Hello, good morning, Dr. Alan. I'm gonna say your name, Elaine.
Alan, like you say it like in English, you know.
Okay, I got you.
There we go.
I got you. I appreciate that. Thank you. I am so excited to have you on the show. One of the things that I do about this whole show is that we go into your childhood. Where were you born? Who influenced you by the age of before 10 or 12? And then we're going to go down your timeline, if you will, into how you are this incredible human being today. So tell me, where were you born?
Well, obviously, I've got a tiny accent, as you can hear it, right? So I'm not from the US. So I was born and raised in France, right? And so I'm like 63 years old, right? And I was my origin are mixed Spanish, right? So my family from mother's side and father's side actually are from south of Spain, Andalusia, right? I've got a mixed culture of French, and I'm the second generation Frenchman.
So what languages do you speak?
Well, I speak English. I'm trying to, right? French, of course, fluently. I came to this country, I was 30 years old, and some Spanish. Yeah.
So did you live in Spain?
No, I never lived in Spain. I've got family in Barcelona, and I went sailing because I used to live on a sailing boat, and I went sailing to Barcelona and also some Baleares Islands, you know, and but that's pretty much it.
Gotcha. So who would you say were your biggest influencers before the age of 10?
I think my dad show me actually what not to do. My dad was a very he was like always sick, right? In a way, he was very negative person, right? And so of course he did affect his entire health, and he was very controlling. So of course that has really shaped my life as far as, you know, freedom for me was everything, right? And freedom means adventure, right? So that's why I wanted to buy a boat, you know, that's why I did travel a lot, right? And kind of some people think I had the dream life, right? Because I was working maybe, I would say 7 months, 8 months a year, and the rest of the time I was either sailing or getting a South Hemisphere ticket, you know, to be the kind of a sun chaser that I was always been.
Sun chaser, huh? Love that.
Yes.
Yeah. So your dad, and you said he was a very sick person, right? Physically sick.
Yes.
And that made him negative?
I think the way, you know, I understand it now with developing the mind clearing, it's like when you are negative, it's going to affect your entire, all the cells in your body with that negativity. And that's what, you know, he had clearly some trauma, unresolved trauma, right? And so that's why he got sick. At 40 years old, he was disabled and never went back to work ever again, right? And so, yeah. This man was literally puking life, right? He was vomiting after each meal and all that.
Oh my goodness.
And I feel for him, right? But, you know, the first thing when you're negative and controlling, the number one person that you affect the most is yourself. And after, of course, it can impact, you know, your loved one and your family, but definitely you are the one suffering the most of that situation.
Oh yeah. So you saw this happening, and obviously you were hoping that your dad was not like that he was not sick anymore. Um, who else would you say along the lines of a positive influence on you did you encounter?
Well, my grandpa, my grandpa, I just reflected on that like maybe 10 years ago. And we have the same path. He was an immigrant, coming from Spain, going to France, which I am an immigrant in America.
Mhm.
And his passion, I remember he was always taking his pearls. And in a broken French in his journal, he was saying, I can feel the life within me and all that. And he was a very positive person like I am, right? And also he was an entrepreneur, right? He was living his passion. His passion was about backing, right? When he was a young man, he used to back, in the velodrome, right?
Mm.
And after he had a back shop and he died on his back from an accident.
Wow.
He actually got so he lived his passion to the fullest. I mean, he was 73 years old. My dad was maybe in his early 40s, and nobody could keep up with him. He was such in good health. Unfortunately, life is like this. C'est la vie, like we say in France, right?
Yeah, yeah, c'est la vie, for
But
sure.
he got hit by a car,
Mm.
and of course he died almost right away.
Wow, wow.
But what a beautiful I mean, I wish I'm going to die treating people. Too bad for the patient, right? But I wouldn't mind it at all. I wouldn't mind it at all.
Yeah. So you're living your life to the fullest, right? You've been called a sun chaser. Um, so your grandpa was a positive influence on you. Moving down your timeline, if you will, when did you realize that you didn't want to be like your dad? You wanted to be more like your grandpa. What was the idea behind you saying, I want better for me personally"?
I wish I could say it's using my analytical mind, but it was not.
Mhm.
Because since, for me, it was about adventure, right? Freedom equal adventure. Freedom was, I believe, I was a young man, right? I started my own company, boat rental business. I was 22 years old, right? I never looked back. And so
Mhm.
what happened is like, for me, it was adventure, right? So that's what I did. And there was not really a kind of sense of purpose, right? It was just maybe for me like to compensate for being like watch and control for how long, right? It's kind of a response, a reaction of that, right? And I was doing, minding my own business, partying over time. They used to call me the gypsy. I had long hair, I had an earring, and the area in south of France I used to live, it's actually where the Gypsy King. I don't know if you have heard of them. It's
Yes.
a yeah, and they're from there, right? And so,
Mm.
so I was living the life and the life of freedom, adventure and partying all the time. And after I had a calling, I saw myself helping people. And so it's
Mhm.
kind of, I'm blessed because that purpose, has been given to me, but it was not, oh, one day I decided to do that, right? It was just, I knew that I had to do it. There was no choice for me, right? And so that's how it started, actually.
Mm. You mentioned the Gypsy Kings, and it brought back a memory that I met them, and it was by accident, and I became their interpreter for the night
No, that's cool.
because I am Colombian and I speak Spanish, and they were at an
Ah,
American restaurant, and they could not communicate with the management, and they were
I've been
playing.
to, I've been to Colombia actually.
Have you? Nice, nice. I was born there, but I have not been back, and I know I've been called
Ah,
that I have to go back. I came when I was 8 years old, so
I
I,
see.
like you, I'm also a foreigner, right? But
Yes.
I've adopted the USA as my country, right? So they didn't adopt me; I adopted it. So if you think of it, um, so you realize that you wanted to help people. Is that when you decided that you wanted to become a chiropractor or somebody who can help people heal in a better way?
Yeah, well, here's the thing: is I didn't know what to do. Right, I used to tell because nobody in my family was remotely involved, with anything like about health. Right, there were no
Mm,
MDs, of course, no nurses, no massage therapists. Nobody. So I didn't know what to do. Where to. The way I will describe it was like a brick wall, and there was no door
Mm.
to go the other side. And I started to share that with my clients, right? And one day that client told me, you know what, Alan, there's a friend of mine, he's a Chinese doctor, and he's gonna come over. Maybe you should talk to him. I said, heck yes, I really want to talk to him. And his name was Philip, and he told me, okay, I'm gonna give you 3 books to read, right? When you're done reading this book and the season is over, like in end of September, mid October, you come to my office. I will give you some treatment, and we'll talk. And those 3 books, I always remember, they were like deep rooted in philosophy. One was the Tao Te Ching, which is, which
Right.
is like the Chinese philosophy book, right? The Chinese philosophy book. The other one was called the Hara, Hara, which is a Japanese actually philosophy and focusing on the gut. Hara means gut. And when those Japanese warrior, if they kill themselves because they dishonor themselves, they will definitely put a knife under their belly button and kill
Mm.
themselves because it's the center of
Right.
gravity of a human being. And the other one was, the man between the earth and the sky, right? Which is more acupuncture philosophy. So I really enjoyed this book, and I went to, sure enough, after the season was done, I went and received a treatment. I inquired about Chinese medicine, and he told me, well, if you really want to know what you're doing, Alan, what you need to do is just to go to China, learn Chinese, spend 10 years, study all the old texts. I said, whoa, Philip, 1 minute. I was 30 years old. I said, I want to practice one day. And he laughed like you did. And I remember he looked at me, he said, you know what, Alan, you look strong. Why not chiropractic? And I look at him and I say, what's that? And sure enough, he gave me all the information, and he gave me some information about some connection about some French people who went to the US to study chiropractic. And when I collected all this information, especially from the school, there's one thing that really was captivating to me. They were talking about the innate intelligence, our own ability to heal ourselves. And sure enough, I went to the US, sold my boat business, told my parents, imagine, the gypsy guy, well, hey, oh, by the way, I'm going to America to become a doctor. I mean, they say, oh, that's the latest from Alan, right? But they didn't know, they didn't understand that I had that calling, and I couldn't not trying to do that, right? And that's what I did.
Wow. Wow. Where did you come to the U.S.? What part of the country?
So I ended up in Spartanburg in South Carolina. That was the school. And after they sent me for prerequisites, they sent me to Kansas City, Missouri, where I reside now. And I met a French woman, right, in a bar, and that became my wife. And we have a daughter. My name is Maya. Now she's 20 years old. And I
Nice.
decided to stick around.
There you go. There you go. Right. That's beautiful. Um, so what was the challenge when you decided I'm going to go to the US? What was the challenge for you that back then?
None. I mean, I know it
Really?
sounds crazy. It's when I was in the US, but the fact for me it was like it's kind of that experience, that free experience like that. And I literally saw myself helping people, right? And so for me, it was so embedded within me that I just couldn't not doing it, right? I mean, there was no choice. So there was absolutely no choice for me, right? And willingly, why? It was not like, oh my goodness, I don't have any choices. No, willingly, I just wanted to do it. And I remember they used to call me the gypsy for a reason. So it was not I used to travel a lot. And so that was actually exciting to me, right? I never thought though of going to the US for pleasure or things like that. Never was attracted to that country for that, right? And it's not really truly in the South Hemisphere anyway, to be fair, right? And so
Mhm.
since there was not too much sun there, maybe Florida. But anyway,
Mhm.
so yeah, it was not really. It's like the culture shock. I'm sure you understand what I'm going to talk to you and tell you, right? The culture shock. It's when you're in the country, right? And so there's different things that are different, and
Mhm.
I'm Latino and they are Anglo-Saxon, right? So it's a different way of behavior. But I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to come to this country and even study to this country because it's like so more pragmatic that
Mhm.
that in France.
Yeah. So you started helping people. You understood that chiropractic was a way for you. When did you fully understand that it was not just chiropractic, but it was more of the mind that you had
Yeah,
to help?
well, that's such a good question because I started to treat people, right? Although I was using like different, like not the typical chiropractic technique, right? Something like
Mm,
a little bit different, right? And so I started to treat people, and if they will get better, right? And after they will plateau, and just to
mm,
maintain their health benefit, if I can say that, I still have to treat them. So there was something wrong with that, right? To me, because I know few things in life for sure, right? And one of them, I believe in the law of cause and effect. So what does it mean? For every cause, there's an effect, and
mm.
for every effect there's a cause, right? When for my 8 years old son I say there's a cause and consequences, right?
Right, right, right,
to
right,
make sure you understand that, right? And so from that, in order to resolve a problem, and you can have a health problem, you can have a relationship problem, a prosperity problem. In order to resolve that problem, you need to know only two things. And if you know those two things, right, there's no more problem. You can move down, right? You don't even think about your problem anymore, which is what
mm,
we want, right? And
right.
so
Yeah.
basically, yes. And so what is it? Well, number one, you need to find out what's causing your problem. If you don't know what's causing your problem, how can you fix it? And number two, you need to know how to fix it. And this seems to be super simple, right? But when you apply that into your life, that's gonna prevent you to not to go to some path, right? Is it really what's
Mm,
causing the thing, right? And so what I realized, it's like, well, since we cannot move on from the problem, right? The health problem, the physical problem, the pain that people have totally, right? So it
right.
means even the chiropractic, doesn't truly goes towards all cause of a problem, right? And also maybe the way to fix it is not the best. And what I realized soon, for the fix it, chiropractic does only 20% of your nervous system, which is all the nerves coming out of your spine, right? But it's only
Mhm.
20% and going everywhere in your body. It's called the peripheral nervous system. So I became a cranial specialist, right? Because the central nervous system is 80% of your nervous system.
Mhm.
And after I started to develop my own energetical technique, right, that I created, right. So I started to be pleased, with the physical, the treatment, and all that. But what I realized, we are not only physical being, right? We are physical being, we are chemical being, right? Our internal physiology, and we are mental and emotional beings. So the second things that I did, there's people who are complaining about their knee pain and joint pain, right? And chiropractic, we don't even touch that. Even my energetical technique, which I was pretty happy with, that we don't touch that because it was a different kind of stress. It's called
Mm,
inflammation, right? So I started
right.
to study that, and I made a practice out of it. I had 4 employees. I was seeing 250 patients a week, right? And so,
Wow.
I was living the American dream, like they say, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, and so that's why I stopped at this, right? Not the I did a little bit emotional and mental, but I was not really focused on that. And so what happened also, within a year, I ended up, divorcing, actually, because, my mind, it was so imbalanced, right? I always was thinking about the practice and all that. So when I was coming home, I was there, but I was not present. And even for my daughter, and I hate to say that, but that's the truth, right? I was kind of a zombie at home. And so what happened, of course, ending up divorced within a year, ending up divorced. And after depressed. I was already borderline burned out, and after,
Mhm.
dealing with my daughter, right? And that's not, when you divorce and you've got a kid, it's never a handshake, right? And so there's
Right.
some issue and all that. And so I became depressed, and my practice went from thriving to basically failing. I ended up be the only one in that office, and actually I remember, I said, well, I'm going to leave. It was a beautiful office where I had even a shower, all the things. And I said, well, I'm going to spend 6 months in my office, try to rebound and all that. I ended up staying 3 years. The gypsy, I guess, was still there.
A
And I lived
gypsy and
three.
lived in you.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was still there. And so, but also what happened, I ended up being diagnosed with early stage of colon cancer. So here I am telling you what to do in order to prevent you to have cancer, to have cardiovascular disease. And I got sick, so I have to rethink about everything about my life, right?
Yeah.
I have
Wow.
to about my health, about my job, right? I mean, I was not doing a good job because I got sick myself, right? About my relationship, right? About my prosperity. But I'm a very intuitive and creative person. And so what happened is like my intuition told me, you know what? There's something inside you that is pushing you to sabotage your health, sabotage your relationship, and sabotage your prosperity. And I went on a quest to study that, right? What the heck happened to me, basically? I'm like a
Mhm.
simple man, try to find solution for my problem. Yeah, okay, I'm a doctor, whatever. But that's really was my thinking process. That was the way I approached the problem.
Yeah. Incredible when you realize that you had an issue. Did you start doing some more deep self evaluation?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, and that was the way I did the deep evaluation. I just had to find out, okay, how can we deal with those emotions? How can we deal with a negative thought, which I knew about my dad, right? That's such a
Mhm.
perfect example. So I
Yeah.
knew somehow that, those were really the cause of my problem, right? And so I started to study the mind, and I learned some different technique, to help me that dealt with emotion and things like that. But I knew that was not it, right? And so, and what I've learned about the mind is just, it's ridiculous. I mean, in a way that is it's actually shocking or mind blowing, right? For example, we kind of live in two separate worlds at the same time. So there's the what we call the outer world, sir, right? The outer world. So it's basically our conscious mind, our self identity, who we think we are, what we are aware of, like what are we aware of? Our thought,
Mhm.
our emotion, our
Right.
behavior, and action, right? And it's basically how we perceive reality. And after we've got the second mind, right? It's called the subconscious mind to keep it very simple, right? And that subconscious mind is kind of hidden, right? It's very secretive. We don't really know what the heck is going on there. And so
Right.
that mind record everything you have been doing in your life. So every single thing. And also it's like where your basically all the automatic process in your body happen in your physiology, but you don't have to think about it. Like for example, your breathing, your heartbeat, your digestion, all those automatic processes, they originate from your subconscious mind, right?
Mhm.
All your skills as a martial artist, as a dad, as a podcaster, and whatever you do, right? They are stored in the subconscious mind, right?
Mhm.
And the main things that I've learned, what is very crazy, it's like depends who you're reading. Your conscious mind is only 5 or 10% of your mind, and the
Mhm.
subconscious mind, is 90 to 95% of our mind. So here's the problem I was confronted, right? Because I said, when we want to improve as a human being, when we want to heal, to transform ourselves and grow, what are we focused on, or what we have been told to focus on? It's only our conscious mind. It
Right.
means we're going to use only 5 or 10% of our manpower. So I thought about it. I said, why not bringing the subconscious mind to the party? Like Carl Jung said, you need to bring the subconscious conscious.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of the things that I do consistently. Before I go to sleep, I I I say, this is what I want to think about. This is what I want to wake up with the answers. This is what I want to learn even while I'm sleeping, because I might have learned it during that day, but it didn't fully hit home. And I know it's in there because I saw it or I heard it. But now let's put it together. So I definitely understand the beauty of using your mind in that regard.
Sure.
When you when you understood all this, how did that change your daily actions? How did that change the way you were going to start to help people?
Well, first of all, for our daily action, there's basically two ways to see the world, right? Either you
Mm.
see the world as a victim of circumstances, right? Oh, this is happening, and you can blame. I see that with my dad, when they were calling him to say, "Oh, Jean, how you doing?" and all that, he identified with his disease, right? So subconsciously, well, if I'm getting better, I'm not going to receive the love and the attention, right? So
Mhm.
why bother, So that can be very dangerous, right? And so a victim mode, it's like basically you say, okay, this is like the outside world causing the problem, and I'm just a victim of it, right? I have nothing to do with that, right? And so you never learn the experience, right? And so when you are a creator, which we all are, of course, we all are creator, right? When you're a creator, you say, okay, hold on, there's a challenge there's a reason why there's a challenge. I kind of created that challenge, right? In order for me to learn something about it. So what is the lesson there, right?
Mhm.
And so what is it what is it inside of me that created that, right? What I have to work on in order to be able, and if you learn truly the lesson, that challenge is not going to happen again into your life. So that's how you get rid of, sabotaging pattern and things like that. But first, you need to be aware of how it works, right? And after, so what's causing it, right? How it works. And after the second things, you need to have a technology to be able to delete, those program, because we all have been programmed. See, that's the things that you have been programmed, I've been programmed, everybody listening to that program has been programmed, right?
Right.
It is that's the way it works. And there's programs that are serving you and programs that are not serving you. And probably I will say more than likely around age 0 to 7 years old, right? We are like sponges, right? I mean, we even had different brain wave, right? Like theta wave, beta wave. It's kind of a hypnotic stage. So what we see in the outside world, we assume is the truth. So you assume the truth one or twice and become a program. And that program, which is very important to know, those programs are stored in your subconscious mind. And so
Mhm.
you've got programs that are serving you, that are good for you. We call that empowering belief, right? And it means it's kind of like Sifu, when you've got a day, everything is flowing, man, you're accomplishing so many things, you're in a good mood and all that. It's kind of like your mind is working for you instead of against you. Those are empowering belief there, right? And after,
Mhm.
of course, we've got those other days, right? When nothing is working for you, it's not even that you are not productive. It can be even counterproductive. And you say, man, I wish I would stay in bed, because that's not really doing it today, right? And so those kind of programs that are not serving us any longer. And they are
Mhm.
called limiting belief, right? And it's kind of like your brain is working against you instead of working for you. And so those limiting beliefs, they dictate your present and mold your future. So that's no joke,
Mhm.
right? They are controlling you. And they are very insidious because you don't know really what they are, right? You can be conscious of some of them, but I'm going to tell you something from my experience treating so many people, right? The one that are the most damaging is the one you don't know.
Mm. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Let me share this with you and we'll be right back. You followed the rules, tried the restrictions, counted the carbs, the steps, and the failures. You're not lazy, you're exhausted from doing it all without real change. What if the problem isn't you, but the plan? Sifu's Mind Body Method is a 90-day transformation built on 7 unshakable pillars: mindset, movement, nutrition, hydration, fasting, journaling, and faith. This isn't another shortcut. It's your structure, your strength, your reset. You don't need harder, you need better. Ready to begin? Start today. I created that because of the way I live my life, and I wanted other people to understand that their worth is more than sometimes they give themselves credit for. You do what you do because you're constantly meeting people with limiting beliefs. What is the one limiting belief that you constantly see in people?
And here's the thing, because that's really such, here's the problem, should I say.
Mhm.
You don't have to identify the limiting belief. Why? Because here's the thing, you telling me I'm going to use 5 or 10% of my mind power in order to crack 90 to 95% of my mind power. Well, the odds are not really, they're pretty much against me, right? And so what you do, the mind clearing is designed to, it's like a kind of like when you've got a program in your computer, right? And this program is not doing the job any longer, right? You want something better, or it's not working for you anymore, right? So what you're going to do, you're going to use your mouse, you're going to
Mm,
delete that program, you're going to go to the Play Store, you're going to download a program that is working better for you, right? And
mhm,
on the screen, on the screen of life, you're going to be able to create, much better whatever you want. You're going to have a result and the outcome that you want. I just described the three step of mind clearing. First, you delete what you don't want. Number two, you download what you want instead. You don't have to identify it. You download what you want instead. And number three, you make sure that you're going to create and manifest that into your life. Otherwise, it's only a fantasy in your head, right? So there's a program like that. So basically, if something like the way I will treat somebody, like Sifu, you say, well, you know what, I want to treat this, right? And so
mhm,
I say, I want you to visualize yourself having lots of stress, right? Whatever it is, anxiety or whatever. I'm sure it's not your case, but let's take an example, right? So anxiety, right? So you visualize yourself having the anxiety, right? And what we do, I created a program for that that's going to delete the anxiety. So my job,
mhm,
it's only to customize that to you, and you're going to be the one who's going to reprogram yourself. It
mm,
means that technology empowering you to heal yourself. And there's no better healing than that. That's the holy grail of healing, when you empower somebody to heal himself or herself, transform himself or herself. There's no better. So we using, it's kind of you having access to 90 to 95% of your mind power that you didn't have before. And I'm here just to guide you, just to help you. So we do that, we delete. Typically, after the deletion, the anxiety is gone. When you look at the picture, you say, I don't feel any anxiety, right?
nice.
And after I will say, now what we want to do is just want to replace that with your ideal outcome. What is it that you want instead of the anxiety, right? And so,
Mhm,
okay, maybe it's peace of mind, but you visualize a picture. And the visualization of a picture is speaking the same language that your subconscious mind, right? But it's your picture. It's not mine. That's your subconscious mind we treated. That's you we are treated, right? And so you visualize that. There's another download program I created, right? And so you're going to send the program to you in that picture, right? And number three, we want to make sure that you're going to manifest into your life, right? And so that's another program. It's very simple. It's not complicated at all. So the most common, to answer your question finally, I'm sorry, but the most common is the most common things that are bothering you.
mm,
What is it the thing, I will ask, what is it the thing that, you're tired of it, right? You just don't want to feel that way anymore. Or what is it, or maybe you had a big trauma, right? And you want to
mm,
get rid of that, right? Or maybe you had, and after we make a list of all the trauma you had, all the challenge that you had in your life, and we'll treat those like that. They
mm,
don't act as a loop behind the scene and dictating your present and molding your future. It's kind of like your past. We are still stuck in the past.
mm,
When there's a trauma, right? The problem, let's see if I've got PTSD, right? Post traumatic stress syndrome or disorder, right? I'm in Iraq and I've got a gun, right? And I'm shooting, and I pull the trigger, and by accident I kill my best friend. Of
mm,
course, I'm a mess, right? I feel guilty, shame, and all that. I come back to the US, and like who's a Vietnam vet, right? I mean, I'm messed up, right? I mean, to say it very simply, I messed up, and I end up divorcing. I'm homeless and all that, right? So why? It's because there's still a part of my soul stuck
Mm.
in the past, pulling on that trigger. So the mind tree ring will bring that part of your soul to the present, and like that, the memory is gone. Remember, like whose Rambo movie, he just wake up like sweating like profusely, right? And you've got the memory back that he was tortured by the Viet Cong or things like that, right? So we typically bring that memory back. We will delete that. We will download instead, not being
Mm.
prisoner, maybe whatever it is for him, right? It doesn't really matter. Make sense?
Absolutely. The individual part is what I love because we all have different limiting beliefs, right? But when I asked what is the most common, because let's say you see 100 clients, and 20% are it's their childhood, or their parents told them you'll never be any good, and they believe that. And then other ones, they have fear of being recognized because they don't believe in themselves. And then maybe other ones, like you talked about, anxiety. So in the percentages, there's going to be a certain amount of people who are higher than others, right, on their limiting beliefs. So with that in mind, out of say, and I know you've treated more than 100 people, it's like, I don't know, thousands, right? Um,
4,200 something.
right. That's incredible. And congratulations on that. And they're all
Sure.
better for it because they met you, right? Um,
Well,
but what would you say is the one that really sticks out, even though everybody's an individual? What's one that really sticks out for people that people can go, wow, I need to talk to Dr. Allen because I'm going through that?
well, that's, overwhelmingly it's some childhood trauma, right? I mean,
Mm.
I treat it like, uh, the mind is well done in a way, and there's some things that will tweak it definitely. But when a trauma is too much for you to handle, the mind will suppress that memory of a trauma, right? I mean, that's really crazy. Yeah. So I had like so many women after, for example, giving birth, right? They remember some sexual trauma that they are, even molestation, and
Wow.
that memory was so overwhelming that the subconscious mind knew, oh, she cannot handle that, right? And after we start to treat trauma, and boom, now you're more ready for that, right? And all that.
Right.
But it's basically, I will say, negative emotion are really the one. But when you understand that whatever you don't like in your life, there's a limiting belief behind it. And more than likely, if as something that's been really chronic, is connected to your childhood.
Mm.
That's the
Yeah.
best way I can answer that. And knowing that if I know something, if I will tell you one thing that I know about healing, right? Just one thing. It's like everybody's different. I mean, it's just so amazing. But it's basically negative emotion, right? It can be some fear, some panic attack. So it can be translated to that. But that's really like, for example, public speaking, right? The big one. Like some people will rather die than to speak in public, right? And so there's some common phobia and things like that, right? But there's not really for the people, I treat people who are really sick, autoimmune disorder, that, the actual medicine can do nothing for them. They cannot treat, they don't find what's causing the problem, right? They are very good for emergency room. I break a bone, hey, I want the good doctor, right? The good surgeon, the painkiller and all that, right? No doubt about it, right? If I bust myself giving a kick and it's broken, I want somebody who can fix me, right? No problem.
Mhm.
But for long-term pain and stress, they cannot heal you philosophically, right? Because they don't find out what's caused the problem, and therefore they don't know how to fix it, right? And so,
Mm.
but anyway, this being said, I will say, the main one that I see on people being really sick is being on a victim mode. And I
Mm.
don't blame them. It's nobody's fault, right? Because
Right.
they have been trying everything what they have been told, like you say in your intro, right? You have been trying this and that. You think you're doing the right thing, what you have been told. And when you are Bill Todd is not working for you. So you say, what's wrong with me, right? And so you caught up on that victim mode. And if you truly want to heal from long-term pain and stress, you need to become a creator, right? And so we work a lot on the victim mode, right? Because it's very important. And symptom, right? Because here's the thing, Rafael. What we have been, if you Google like limiting belief, what you're gonna see? You're gonna see it's like some self-esteem issue, right? Basically, I'm not good enough, or I'm too old to do this, too young to do this, whatever it is. But what I discover, it's like you think that your mind can create pain. Absolutely. I treat people every day like that. You think that your mind can create symptom in your body? Of course. You think that your mind can create inflammation? Of course. Right. And so it's more than that. I knew I was really under something when I was able to treat pain, because nobody claimed that. Nobody. That treat limiting belief, you don't hear about that. I'm sure you know. And so I said, okay, I'm really under something, right? And now the result that I've got, 70 to 80% of the people who experience pain, within 2 visits, the pain will go away and not come back. So I'm pleased with that, right? And so that's why I can say that, first of all, it's not complicated. Don't think you have been told you need to do this, to do a ton of visualization, a ton of affirmation, a ton of journaling, and you need basically an iron will in order to tackle those limiting beliefs, right? I say, no, you don't. Because when you start to get a treatment, for example, for the anxiety, like I say, after the deletion, the anxiety went from like, it's 8/10, right? I ask always people, it will be a 1 or 0, right? And after, we want to make sure that we follow the next 2 steps, right? It's not enough to suppress what you don't want. You really want to replace it with something that is so positive and something that you want. And after, you really want to make sure that you create that in your life, right? They talk about the law of attraction. I couldn't care less about the law of attraction. I want this to manifest into my life. You see what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's very interesting when we talk about manifestation, right? Because a lot of people don't know how, and then you have other people who say, "Oh, I manifested this, I manifested that," and then people are like, "How? How do you do it?" So when we can start to help somebody understand that their own beliefs, their own power, it's almost as if you got in your car, and your car, as you talk about, is your brain, and it only can go 10% of the power. So that means instead of going 55 on the highway or 65 on the highway, depends which highway, right? And all of a sudden you can only go 10, 20 miles an hour, and it just, no matter how hard you hit it, it's only going there. But maybe because the gas pedal, something is stuck. So the gas pedal won't go lower so that you can go further. And so you're helping people remove that thing which is limiting their foot from going down. That's a belief, right? And when people start to talk about their trauma, which gave them the limiting belief, that's removing the block, removing that which is the pedal, so they can function at a higher level. They can go the speed limit that they are supposed to go to. How are you finding it that the trauma that really holds us back can also be the trauma that propels us forward?
Well, if I see that in my life, right? I mean, for example, I've got a sister, right? My sister is like my dad. So for
Really?
her, she took the same example. So now she's sick. We cannot find out what's going on. I help her, with chemical stress, but she doesn't want to help with the mind stuff, which is really what's creating the problem. So, and so she's like my dad in a way. She's sick and all that. And I'm more like my mom, right? So either I think there's 2 ways that you do that. Either trauma is not too big for you, right? Because if you really traumatize big time, you're gonna follow the same path, right? But if it's not too big for you, either like I said, my dad taught me what not to do, right? So that's how I took it, right? And let me give you a tiny example for the other side of it, right? Let's pretend there's a little girl that see the dad is an alcoholic, drunk every night, come back home, beat up his wife. What do you think that little girl's going to attract as a romantic relationship down the road?
Oh, yeah. We know. We know she's going to
You see what I
attract an
mean?
alcoholic who's going to beat her, right?
Exactly. And so I've got two comments on that because I like this example because everybody can relate to that, right? So the first thing, if I ask her, that woman, she's now a woman, I say, oh, by the way, do you enjoy to get beat up like your mom? She's going to say no. So the conscious mind is going to say no, but the subconscious mind has been programmed as men are predator and women are prey. Now there's another question that arises, right? How she's going to track that guy? She's going to say, hey, you, can you come and beat me up? Of course, it's not going to happen that way. So it's kind of our subconscious mind are connected to each other. It's like when we say we are all one, you see what I mean? That's how that's the only way it can happen, right? That way. And so we're not conscious of it. Of course, it's the subconscious mind, right? When we're connected. And so let me play the role of a subconscious mind to the woman, right? The woman's going to say, so the subconscious mind is going to whisper to the conscious mind, hey, look at this guy. He's got the program, the predator program. He probably has been bullied and now he's a bully, right? So it's a perfect match. You're going to fall in love with him. And after the subconscious mind of the man is going to say, oh, look at that woman, right? She's got the prey programming, right? She wants somebody that's abusive and we're a perfect match, right? So I'm going to fall in love with her. And they're going to attract, like if they say in America, it takes two to tango, right? That's really it. And they're going to attract each other, but polarity is going to attract them. And there are three different case scenarios. Number one, we all have seen, a marriage like that, right? Or heard about them. And so basically she married the guy and gets stuck for the rest of her life. And we say, why she's still with him? Why when the guy beat her up, she doesn't, she called the cops but say, no, I don't want to pursue any legal things, right? Why? It's because of whose programming, right? Case scenario number two, she's going to be with that guy. We all agree about that, right? And after she's tired of getting beat up, right? I mean, it's kind of like there's a fire and you put your finger once, you say, oh, it burns. Twice it burns. You say, okay, I understand it burns, right? And so look at all the suffering, right? And maybe she's got kids along the way. She's going to attract a man that's maybe different kind of abuse. And usually there's two ways that this can go, right? First way, if I ask that woman, she said, don't talk to me about men anymore. I'm done with man. I understand they're not good for me. I'm done. I'm single. I'm done, right? So that's kind of an awareness, right? And the second example, because we can learn from our life experiences, obviously, right? If she truly heals from that, she will attract somebody that's totally different. Somebody that is very kind to her, but somebody that is very supportive of her, right? And somebody that just wants to treat her as an equal. That's how And case number three, she can come to see me or somebody that does maybe hypnotic things or whatever. And we can really delete that program, download. So look at all the suffering we actually get rid of, right? And she doesn't have to go through that. She doesn't need the experience any longer.
Right. It's interesting that we have that in our minds that we are going to be attracting certain people. But I think that that's going to change, and I'm sure you've helped so many people change that aspect of when they connect at a deeper level with themselves, they stop attracting those people. They move away from that situation and they're sick and tired of being sick and tired or beaten up or whatever the reason is that they're attracting those type of people. And then they attract the right people. How long does something like that take? I know everybody's an individual, but if somebody said, is it the moment that they say, I don't want this anymore, that they stop attracting them and attract different ones? Or does it take some time to work it out?
It's always when the pain of staying the same hurt more.
Yeah.
But you have to change, right? Because either you hit rock bottom, you're tired of this, or either you just, it just hurts too much to stay the same. I need to do something, right? It's just too much, right? And that's how people truly want to change, right? The problem, what we have been told, you go into a therapist. I want to say I have nothing against therapists, right? I mean, everybody's trying its best, right, with the knowledge that we've got. But the therapy, what they're going to use, it's only 5 or 10% of their mind, right? And actually, that can make you worse. I use therapy, but just for an advice with my daughter. He said, okay, the stats are saying that, so you should be able to act this way. I never thought that a therapist will help you to totally transform myself. Never thought about that. And it's just not possible because it's 5 or 10% of our mind. And more we think, if you talk about your problem long enough as a loop, it's going to make you worse. Let me show you something. Let's pretend there's a triangle like this, right? Inside the triangle, you've got limiting belief, right? So, and the limiting belief is like you say, I'm a loser. You have been told, my dad told me I'm a loser, for example, okay? Which is not true, right? And so, inside my limiting belief as a loser, on top of a triangle, my thought, I'm going to think I'm a loser. On the bottom right of a triangle, I'm going to feel like a loser, right? That's my emotion. And after, on the bottom left of a triangle, I'm going to behave like a loser. So I'm going to have loser result. If I've got loser result, I'm going to feel more that I'm going to feel more like a loser, right? And I'm going to think, man, I knew I was a loser, but such a loser, right? And we reinforce what I call that subconscious stress loop that are all running behind the scene constantly and dictating your present and molding your future, like we described, with that little girl, right?
Mm-hmm. Incredible. It's interesting how sometimes we push down the traumas because we don't want to think about them, but yet they still keep surfacing up to make us act a certain way, right?
That's so true. It doesn't mean that you say you don't want to look at yourself in the mirror, but the program is still there and still running. They're going to show up in your life. And the beauty when you treat those kind of things, when you treat your mind, like let's see for a neck pain, right? You say, okay, we treat for neck pain. What the reprogramming, what is going to be about and help you is going to help you also in your relationship, right? You're going to become more positive in general, but also it's going to help you in your prosperity, right? Because it's the mind. The mind includes everything, the entire thing. So it's pretty rare to find something with a mind-body connection, but it's just a common things of all your problems. And I can say confidently that the common things of a majority of a problem that will make a huge impact in your life if you get rid of those limiting beliefs, guaranteed.
Mm-hmm. I think that with limiting beliefs, and thank you for sharing that, I think with limiting beliefs, it's that we don't believe them ourselves. And that's why I love journaling so much. And it's part of my program. It's a big part of my program. Because once you journal, once you take notes, like I've been taking notes, right? We can assess what is in here because we put it on paper. And sometimes we have to put it on paper without correcting, without erasing it. Just put whatever's there, because then later on you can actually start to assess yourself. What was I thinking? What was I going through? How did I feel when this happened, when that happened? How important is it for you to even help people, or do you even help people understand the power of journal?
I don't. I'm sorry. I'm
You
be
don't.
honest with you. I don't.
No, no,
And
thank
so
you for that.
yeah. And so the thing it is because it's still using 5 or 10% of your mind, right?
Mhm.
And so I'm not saying you cannot have access to your subconscious mind by doing that and have some realization. I'm not saying that. I'm saying when after using mind clearing, I just don't need that, right? Because we're tapping into that subconscious mind and going directly. And you say something that was very that I want to make sure that people understand. We say we don't believe on that, right? Okay, so I understand people can be skeptic. Of course, there's healthy skepticism on everything. But let me tell you something. When you do a double-blind study, right, for a drug, for example. Let's say I've got heartburn, right? Let's pretend I've got heartburn. I don't, of course. But I'm gonna go and so they say, you know what, if you take that pill, heartburn will go away. We want to check that, we want to study that, right? See how it works for our drug, right? So I go there, I take the drug, I say, man, no more heartburn, right? So this is fantastic. So they ask me, they do have a questionnaire. They ask me, I say, this is fantastic. I had heartburn all my life. I don't now. But they say, hold on, Dr. Salas. We never give you the heartburn pill. We give you the sugar pill. I say, what? So how does it work? Right? Because that's the placebo effect, right? So how does this work? It means my belief, and it has to be subconscious. It can be also conscious. Maybe my dad took a pill and he felt so much better after. So I programmed myself. Oh man, taking a pill really works, right? It works for him. Probably will work for me too, right? So I've got that belief, right? And so this is like so important to understand that they call that the placebo effect, and they brush it up. Oh, it's only the placebo effect. Man, that's how we heal. That's the best healing you can have. You can have better. Your mind is healing you, right? And after, we've got something that I want to point out, but because people sometimes don't know very well, it's called the nocebo effect. So what is the nocebo effect? I take the pill, but they tell me, you know what, Dr. Salas, you may have a headache, and maybe you're going to have like diarrhea if you take that, right? I take the pill, feel better, but I've got a headache and diarrhea. I say, oh yeah, you were right? They say, hold on, Dr. Salas, I give you only the sugar pill. So the belief of the negative things, that's why it's called nocebo, right, has been programming my mind, right? Because I believe so much on the white coat, right? Whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. That's why identify the limiting belief. It's not really a big deal, right? It's like, what is the action? What are the things you don't like, right? And so the nocebo effect interfere with our life all the time. The bad news, all the fear that they put among us, right? All the things that are negative, right? And God knows there's so much negativity in this world, can go and impact and programming you, right? And so after you live under fear, under fight and flight, right? Using only your sympathetic nervous system, right? And you become like that all the time and only reactive to things, right? You don't want that, obviously, right? And so that's, to show you that even science or research, right? They understand that problem. They understand, for them it's a problem. For me, it's a solution. Now, how can we trigger we are the placebo. We just need to know how to use that.
That's right.
We just need to, you see what I mean? If you can trigger the placebo effect for everything you don't want in life, right? This is it. And so that's how our mind works, right? But we have been told that we only flesh and bone. We have been told that we only 5 or 10% of our mind. By the conception, we've got everything. We don't have an analytical mind. When even babies, when deliver baby, they don't have, they are like this, they're so attractive. You think they are in another world. They are. There's no analytical mind there. They've got some limiting belief that they can acquire from their mom if she had trauma during pregnancy, or even some, negativity, whatever, and who doesn't, right? And so that is so minimum, right? And so they are living in the moment, in the present. And when you've got lots of limiting belief, right, we are stuck in the past.
Yeah. Susan, a good friend of mine, put on here, your belief system dictates the outcome. What if everything we knew to be true is not? It's a good question, right?
I truly understand that. And what I want to say is what we call the awakening. Because basically, if I zoom out, like in a way, right? And so let's pretend the divine, God, awareness, whatever your belief system is, but it doesn't really matter, right? So God is the sun, right? A spark of God creates your spirit. And it's all non-duality. It's kind of, everything is like pure love, or all has been and have ever been. And after you've got the sky, and after Sifu, you've got you and me, right? The physical you and me. And some people, they've got so many clouds in the sky, they say, there's no sun. Never seen it. never felt it, right? So what are making those cloud, right? What are making those cloud is those limiting belief. So when you start to get rid of some limiting belief, now you can get a glimpse at the sun. Now, sometimes you can feel the warmth of the sun, right? So you get more and more because you want more of that, obviously, right? Being closer to God, right? So what you want to do is just to get rid of more limiting belief, and you get being more connected to your spirit. And after at one point, you realize you're not only flesh and bone. You are a spirit, a spiritual being living a physical experience. And when you got that awakening, like she said, you cannot ever look back. And what you think was a certain way can be like viewed totally differently.
Love it. Love it. Dr. Allen, what an incredible conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time. I have your website going across the bottom. What can somebody, you have 45 seconds to promote your website and have people come and join you and learn.
Well, if they mention, my website is themindclearing.com. You go into contact and you got a form that shows up, or you got my email. And if they come from your podcast, if they want to experience the work, get treated for an hour by myself, right? And so it takes an hour, and they will get 20% off. If they want to learn the mind clearing basic, the body clearing, right, which is about pain and symptom and inflammation, and the goal and clearing, goal and success, sorry, clearing. If they want to learn all that, they will get a 50% discount. And I'm telling you, you are so much more powerful than you think you are. That's all I have to tell you. We think we are only 5 or 10%. We are so much more.
Oh yeah, you got to put the gas to the metal, right?
Yes.
You got to press on that gas. Everybody, thank you for watching us. Thank you for commenting. Do me a favor, share this episode with people who need to hear it. This message may have landed on you, but it may land heavier on somebody else who truly needs to hear this. Dr. Allen, thank you so much. Don't go away. We're going to say goodbye to everybody. Have yourself an exceptional day, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.
Thank you, Rafael.